Hello my dears and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon and today I have a Game of Thrones recap to share with you guys. Today the main focus is going to be Season 8 Episode 4. I filmed a recap for Season 8 Episode 1 the night that it aired. Then for Episodes 2 and 3 I ended up having to be out of town, which I was super bummed about because I really wanted to film those videos. But now I'm home, I'm caught up, I've watched 2 and 3, I just finished 4. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 2 and 3 before we kind of just transition on into 4. And so I guess let's just get on into it. Episode 2 had many of the characters gathered at Winterfell. We had a lot of camaraderie, we had a lot of drinking and telling stories and singing. There was a really beautiful moment where Brienne of Tarth gets knighted by Jaime Lannister. I really love the two of them together. I love their interactions. I know that Tormund and Brienne is kind of like the meme that's everywhere, but there's just something really compelling about Jaime and Brienne. We had Arya and Gendry have a intimate moment together. I know that for years there's been like Tumblr blogs dedicated to that pairing, so it was kind of fun to watch it pay off. I know it's a little startling sometimes because Arya looks so young. I know that the actress is 23 years old, she's a full-grown woman, but she looks so young, and Gendry looks so much older than her, but I love his character. I love that they got to have that moment together. And yeah, you know, the night is here and morning is coming, and that sort of possibly unwinnable battle is going to begin. So everyone's just kind of trying to take a load off. But then we have that awkward moment when Jon Snow goes to Daenerys and tells her the truth of his lineage. She is, you can just see on her face, she's not here for it. She is not happy with that. But, you know, they soldier on. And, yeah, so those were kind of the highlights for me. And throughout the whole episode, you're watching it knowing that bad things are coming. Bad things are about to happen. So that's all I'll say about episode 2. Episode 3 is the battle, the battle for Winterfell, and boy, was it. It was so dark. It was very dark, the episode, like, literally dark. The screen, like, you had to turn your brightness all the way up, which I didn't do when I was watching it, you know, because I didn't know. But there are videos circulating YouTube where people have upped the brightness. If you want to search one of those out, if you want to see more details of the battle, it's pretty cool that people took the time to do that. I love that. So the battle was intense. We lost some, you know, we lost some friends along the way. Not everyone made it to the end. That moment when the Red Woman arrives and she lights up all those Dothraki swords, and you're like, okay, let's see what happens. And then the Dothraki ride into the army of the dead, and then those lights you just watch the lights go out as everyone else is watching those lights go out, and you're like, oh shit. We got to see Ghost. Jon's direwolf. Ghost is here. Ghost is doing well. Was very happy to see him. Lady Lyanna, is that her name? The little girl. I remember seeing a meme a few years ago where it was like, if this girl had dragons, this series would have been over 5 seasons ago. She had her moment in the, I want to say sun, but that's not really. She had her moment where one of the undead dragons is coming toward her. He picks her up and he has a sword, and she puts it into his eye, and so she dies, of course, sadly, but he does as well. And that is such a, I loved seeing like the littlest warrior take out the biggest, you know. That was fun. What else? We had some touching moments in this one as well. We had a nice one between Tyrion and Sansa down in the crypts. We had some nice ones with Theon Greyjoy. He arrived and him and Sansa had some nice moments as well. And then Theon decides that he is going to go with Bran because Bran is kind of being put out in the forest as bait, I guess, for the Night King to come. And so Theon volunteers to go with him. And as soon as he volunteers, you know that his story is about to come to an end. You know that his redemption arc is finished, and it's one that I loved. Redemption arcs can be cheesy and they can be cringy, but this one for me wasn't. I thought it was well executed, and I really liked it. It really takes a lot of, good storytelling to be able to make such an unlikable character not so unlikable. I won't say beloved, but not so unlikable, redeemed, and that's great. We see a lot of people being massacred in the battle, a lot of the Unsullied, a lot of just the Winterfell army, a lot of the wildlings. There's just a lot of carnage, and Ser Jorah gets killed defending Daenerys, which of course he does. That's the perfect ending for that character. You can see the true feeling of loss that she feels when he gets killed, which was nice to see. It was nice to see that his loyalty and his love to her, she felt that and she understood it. And then Bran as bait works, and we see the Night King approaching him. And I will say, I was honestly, had my breath held. I was waiting to see what that interaction would be. What was the Night King going to say or do to Bran? I've seen so many conspiracy theories involving Bran and the Night King that I was on the edge of my seat. However, we didn't get that, because out of nowhere comes screaming Arya. You see her coming over his shoulder and attacking him. And he turns around just in time and he grabs her by the throat. And there was a second where I was like, oh my God, is Arya going to die right now? But of course she does not. She drops her sword, and in that iconic move, she stabs him, and that makes him crumble like glass. And then we watch all of the other Night Kings, all of the other, why can't I think of their names? Undead. Why can't I think of their names? All of the other, just, you know who I mean. And then we watch the rest of the undead crumble as well, and that is the end of the Night King. So that was quite something. And I liked how the whole time, the whole thing was nobody can kill the Night King. And then for 7 seasons, this is what Arya has been training for. And when she went through her whole thing where a girl is no one, I mean, that just kind of played out beautifully. And what a payoff for Arya and for us to see her be able to do that. And yeah, that was fantastic. But yeah, did I not say, of course, when the Night King was approaching, first he killed Theon, so that put an end to Theon's storyline. But again, loved that. So those are all kind of the major parts of episode 3. Again, I'm trying to get 2 and 3 just kind of in here as quickly as I can before we move on to episode 4. So episode 4 starts off fairly relaxed. It starts off sad. We've got the bodies of all the people who were killed in battle, and then their bodies are set on fire. When I was watching that, all I could think of was, my God, that has to smell so bad. The hair and the... So yeah, that happens, and then we kind of cut to a celebration. Everyone is celebrating that they won the battle. They have one more to come, of course, when they go to King's Landing to take on Cersei. But for now, the battle has won, and they can take some time to themselves, recharge, have some drinks, eat some food. We see Jon and Dany at the head table. After a bit, we see Gendry. He gets up from the table that he is sitting at, and he's going to look for Arya. And as he's walking out of the room, Daenerys stops him, and she says, "You're Robert Baratheon's bastard son." The implication there being, your father ruined my family. And he says, "I know, Your Majesty, but I didn't even know he was my father until after he was dead." She says, yes. She inquires as to who the lord of their home is, and he says, I don't know. And she says, well, I think you should be the Lord. So she names him Lord Gendry, and it's nice. It's nice. I liked it. I liked it a lot. So then he goes off in search of Arya. He finds her, and he says, you should be celebrating. And she's shooting bows and arrows, and she says, I am celebrating. And he says, well, so am I. He tells her what happened with Daenerys moments ago. She's like, congratulations. He says, thank you. I couldn't imagine doing it, being the Lord, without you by my side in the castle. And she, in true Arya fashion, tells him, I'm not interested. I couldn't imagine that playing out any other way, and we'd all hate it if it had. But, she says, any woman would be lucky to be your lady, but I'm not a lady, never have been. True. So meanwhile, back inside the celebration hall, we'll call it, there's, everyone's just kind of going crazy, having fun, except for the Hound. I don't know that the Hound knows how to have fun. But him and Sansa have a scene which was pretty good. And it was him saying, you've changed. And he says, if you would come with me when I tried to take you away from King's Landing, none of the bad things that happened to you would have happened to you. And she says, they were for the best, because he calls her little bird. And then she says, if I hadn't been through those things, I would still be a little bird. Then she gets up and she walks away. Then we also have Tyrion and Jaime and Brienne and Podrick. I can never remember his name. They're all playing a drinking game, sort of kind of like a never have I ever sort of game. And Tyrion eventually says to Brienne, I think you're a virgin, and that would make her have to drink if she was. But instead she gets up and she leaves. You can tell she's very, very upset about it, and Jaime follows her. Meanwhile, Tormund's kind of bumbling around. She walks away from him too, and like I said, Jaime follows her. They end up having a scene where they get to be intimate. I thought that was great. I loved that. Meanwhile, Daenerys goes to Jon's chambers towards the end of the night. He kind of gets off the bed, stumbles a bit. She's like, oh, are you drunk? And he says, maybe a little. And then she kind of confronts him about their newfound relationship. And while they had been at the celebration, you could see Dany really watching the way people react to Jon and the way they love him and they relate to him and they consider him a friend, and you could see the loneliness in her eyes. So she says, you can't tell anybody about this, because if you tell anyone, it'll blow up beyond your control, and whether or not you want the throne, because he has been very vocal, like, even though I'm a Targaryen, I don't want to have the throne. I want you to have the throne. You're my queen. And she says, well, that won't matter if you tell people, because it'll blow up beyond your control. She's not wrong. Which we'll see now in a minute. So, they kind of kiss, but then Jon pulls away. Dany says, I wish you had never told me about this. And it's a mess. And later, Jon goes on to tell Sansa and Arya. He expressed to Dany that he wanted to because he doesn't feel right lying to them, and she expressly told him in no uncertain terms not to do that, but he does. And then we see the trickle-down effect from that. We see that Sansa ends up telling Tyrion, and then Tyrion's talking about it with Varys, and Tyrion's kind of solution is, well, let's marry them, and then they can be king and queen together. And, Varys is kind of like, I mean, maybe. It wouldn't be a first of a marrying of bloodlines for a Targaryen. And then it's like, but Winterfell, that's not really how they rolled. So they're kind of just trying to figure out what the best course of action is. Varys kind of, Varys? Varys kind of says that, you know, we need to make the right decision or else we are going to be regretting that we didn't. Varys kind of hints at killing Daenerys, though he never says it outright. And Tyrion just says, please don't. Then we kind of cut to Jon Snow saying goodbye to the people who are not going to be coming to King's Landing with him. And that is Tormund and Ghost. He tells Tormund that Ghost would be happier, you know, back way up north. And that was sad. And then, who else was it? There was a few people he was walking away. Sam and Gilly, and as Jon is walking away, he kind of looks back and we see Tormund and Ghost and Sam standing there. And I guess that's the last we're going to see of them for the series. We hear that Jaime's going to be staying in Winterfell, and Brienne's going to be staying because she is, you know, in charge of protecting the Stark girls. So we cuts to Jaime and Brienne spending the night together again, which we know because it just shows us Brienne in bed and Jaime sitting in the chair. As soon as I saw that, I said to my husband, I said, Jaime's leaving. He's going back to King's Landing, which he did. The next scene shows him out getting his horse ready, and Brienne wakes up and she goes out to him and she says, you know, you're a good man. You're not like your sister. Please don't leave. And we have this incredibly vulnerable moment with Brienne where she's crying and she's naked just with you know, blanket wrapped around her, and she's crying and she's begging him not to leave. And you know, Brienne is so tough and so strong that this is such a soft, vulnerable moment that, you know, it's breaking her heart. And he says, he has this whole spiel where he's like, you think I'm a good man? And then he lists, you know, some of the highlight reel moments of his evil deeds that he's done specifically for Cersei because of his love of Cersei. And he says, she's hateful and I'm hateful too. And then he rides away. That is his last words to Brienne. My theory is kind of that I think he feels like he's the only one that can kill Cersei or should kill Cersei. And I think that's what we're sort of building up to. Then, you guys, so, you know, it was a pretty low-key episode up until then. And then we see some of the ships sailing towards King's Landing. We see the dragons up in the sky. Dany is riding one. And the other one is flying around, and then he gets hit in the chest with an arrow. And then you're like, oh shit. And then he gets hit in the neck with an arrow. And then he gracefully plummets into the sea. Dany is fuming, as you can imagine. So not only has her dragon been hit, but below her, her boats are being hit. You're like, oh my god. Tyrion's running around the boat, dodging arrows. You're like, what's gonna happen? So then it cuts to a scene where many of the characters who are on the boats are washing up on shore. Then we see Grey Worm, and he is looking for Missandre. I think that's how you pronounce her name. He can't find her. Then we cut to Grey Worm and Daenerys and Tyrion and Varys, and they are approaching Cersei. They are outside of her gates, her and the mountain and the Greyjoy that she's with, and then Missandre's there and she's in chains. And we also, but right before this, we see Cersei telling the Greyjoy, I can't remember his name right now, but the one that she's with, she's telling him that the baby, because she's pregnant, the baby is his, although we've already seen her tell Jaime it's his, and she's been pregnant since before she started with this man. So we see this scene where Cersei and her crew are up top, and then Daenerys and hers are down below. We see her hand come out, and then Tyrion walks up to her hand. And they have a brief exchange that really leads to nothing. So he's like, okay. So Tyrion walks closer to Cersei, and he wants to talk to her. He gives this speech where, you know, he says, as awful as you are, I don't think you're a monster. I know that you have loved your children. So for this child that you are now carrying, how about you stab, basically. He says, you know, your reign is over, but your life doesn't have to be. And Cersei is standing there taking it all in, and then she has the mountain come and chop Missandre's head off. Daenerys again is fuming, and she just starts to walk away. Grey Worm is shook, to say the least, and then that is where the episode ends. Like, so next week, I guess, is going to be a lot of the whole King's Landing business. We know that Cersei has brought a lot of the people of King's Landing into the Red Keep to keep them safe. Knowing that if then Daenerys storms through and kills thousands of innocent people, she will look like the monster, not Cersei. So we'll see how that all plays out. Daenerys doesn't know yet that like 8 people know about the fact that Jon is the rightful heir of the throne and that he's a Targaryen, so that will be interesting when that knowledge comes to her. We are down to 1 dragon now, so only 2 more episodes left, you guys. I'm so excited. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Can't wait in the next 2 weeks to do 2 more recaps with you guys. If you liked this video and you want to see more, please do subscribe. Also leave a thumbs up. That'd be real helpful. And in keeping with a bit of the Game of Thrones theme, on Wednesday here on my channel, I'm going to have a get ready with me using the Urban Decay Game of Thrones palette. I've been playing around with it a lot. I used it today for this eye look. I used the Winterfell portion of the palette. So yeah, if you're interested in that, stick around. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.